We're just talking about books today. Talking all things books. I'm going to show y'all all of the books that I read last month. I'll talk a little bit about my thoughts on them. I'm not going to do synopsis. Every single month I do this. I don't know how to say the plural of synopsis. I do not know what that word is, and I will never. I'm not going to give you a book synopsis for all of these books or a plot. I'm not going to tell you about the plot. So there won't be any spoilers, but I'll just tell you a little bit about the book, a little bit about my thoughts. You're welcome to tell me your thoughts if you've read it. And then after that, I'll talk you through all of the books that I'm hoping to read this month. So yeah, here we go. All right. Okay, so is it synopses? Like diagnoses? I think it is. Synopses? Because synopsis is the singular. Synopses? I've said it too many times that now none of these sound like words. So it's anyone's guess. I think you're right, Morg. I think if I were writing it down, I would have no problem. But I think it's the saying it out loud that wrecks my brain for some reason. I'm so ready. Me too. I love book. Okay, the first book that I read this past month in October was The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. And I actually listened to we're readers, not talkers. Yeah. Don't make me speak out loud. What am I? What do I do? Talk to the internet? No. I actually listened to the audiobook of this, which was very cute. I really liked it. If I'm remembering correctly, I read this at the very beginning of the month. It had two narrators in the audiobook because it's from two perspectives. I love a two perspective book. Ooh. And the accents were really, really cute. I liked it. But I read the audiobook for this book. I really liked it. I also own an ebook for this because I got it on very cheap sale a while ago. But I really loved this one. This is like solidly a romance book. And it has a bunch of like really adorable tropes in it. So I started this year saying that I hated romance. And I have learned that that's simply not true. It's just that I'm pretty particular about romance. And I used to think that it was like, I didn't like how like unserious romance is, but it's not even that because like I love like a feel good, silly romance book. Like I just do. It is what it is. It's just that there's some romance that I don't like and that's okay. Anyways, this is romance. It's really adorable, multiple perspective, which I, again, super love. The concept is so there are these two people and they share a flat, which if you live in the US like me, that's an apartment. Flat sounds so much cooler. But anyways, they share a flat in like London, the London area, I'm pretty sure, where it's really expensive housing prices are expensive. And the way that it works is, so Tiffy and Leon are the main characters. Tiffy has like a 9-to-5 job and Leon works night shifts. So and then Leon stays elsewhere on the weekends. So they like split the apartment where like, since Leon works night shifts, he spends his day at the apartment, like sleeping during the day. And then Tiffy sleeps at the apartment at night. So they like share an apartment, but never interact with each other. Wink, wink, or that's how it starts. Anyways, it's super adorable. Like the whole book was just really, really adorable. I loved the characters. I think it was like, it's interesting because this is one where check the content warnings. As always, I always recommend this. If you have stuff that might trigger you in books, it's always really good to check the content warnings. So I use Storygraph, which is so convenient for checking content warnings, which do I have? So Storygraph is what I use to track my reading and look up books to find out more information about them. It works really similar to Goodreads. If you're familiar with Goodreads, it's just not Goodreads. So I highly recommend it. But one of my favorite things in Storygraph is that there is a section at the, like if you're looking at a book page, like with all of the information, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there is an expandable section with content warnings. So you do not have to look at the content warnings if you don't want to. I know some folks don't prefer content warnings because they can include spoilers. But you can if you'd like to. Anyways, check the content warnings because it does sort of touch on some sort of heavier topics, but I really liked the way that those topics were handled, and it was just so dang cute. Like, it was so cute. I really, really, really liked this one. Also, yeah, not an Amazon product, which is nice. Also, I'm going to regrettably mention an Amazon thing. This book was made into a show on Amazon Prime. Sorry that I'm saying Amazon. And the show was really, really, really cute. Like really, 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 really cute. So it was fun. But yeah, I really, really, this was a recommendation directly from Robin. Robin told me that I should read this book and should specifically listen to the audiobook, and I really liked the audiobook. I think it would still be super fun to read like a physical book or ebook. But the audiobook was really fun because of the way there's a lot of like communication between the two characters, even though they're not like physically together, and I really liked the way that that was handled in the audiobook. I thought it was really cute. Kitty, do not scratch my couch. Okay, we're good. We have a cat. Haha. Anyways, Robin, thank you for the recommendation. I really liked this one. It was very, like, if you are looking for a pretty cute, feel-good romance book, I would highly recommend this one. I really liked the way that it was written. I really liked the premise in general. I thought it was just like really cute and sweet and fun, and I liked it a lot. So yeah, would recommend. What do you think, Kitty? She's making biscuits, just like the gentlest, tiniest biscuits. But yeah, I really like Storygraph for a bunch of different reasons, including that it's another way to switch away from supporting Amazon, which is great. So yeah. Okay, that was the first one that I read. Like I said, really liked it. I would recommend if you like romance, but if you don't like romance, you probably won't like this book. But I think on the romance side, like from what I recall, it was not very spicy. Like I think there was like hints at spiciness, but it wasn't like, I tend to not prefer romance novels that are like tons and tons of spiciness. So this was very low on the spiciness scale. Also, this was another one where I really loved the side characters. Like, I loved the main characters too, but the supporting characters were also like so great, which I love when that happens in a book. I can't wait to read it. I'm also super picky about romance, but I trust your judgment. Thank you. I will always remain picky about romance, but I'm really leaning into an era of just being happy, enjoying lighthearted romance books. I love that the audiobook narrators had the correct accents for the parts of England that both characters were from. Yes, yeah. I don't know a whole lot about England, I'll admit it, but it felt very, like, I felt like it felt like the narrators really captured the characters, which I really liked. It helped me understand the way the male lead speaks better. Yes, yeah. I really liked I liked the accents just because they were like fun to listen to, but also because they absolutely added to the characters of the story, which was really cool. This one, I borrowed the audiobook from my library through the Libby app, which was really cool too. So thanks, libraries. Anyways, yeah, would recommend. Really liked it. Super cute. The next book that I read this month. So I know that I've mentioned this before. I read ARC books, ARC, which stands, I've heard it a couple different things, but it stands for like advanced reader copy or advanced review copy. And I sometimes get access to books before they are published or like around the time that they're published for free ebooks in exchange for reviews. So I will always let y'all know when I got a book for free. But like I never, like, getting a book for free does not impact the way that I review it. Like I think it's really important I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about like book reviewers, and I think it's really important that like we're all, I think all book reviews are really helpful and valid, whether they be positive or negative or anywhere in between, because it helps us, like it helps readers find the right books for them. And I think it also helps us sort of shape the publishing industry, whatever. Anyways, I got this one for free. If you are also a reader and you'd like to get access to books for free so that you can review them, I use NetGalley, NetGalley. It's free to sign up. And you can just, it's like very straightforward. So there's no gatekeeping here. If you want free books, that's how I did it. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. And recently I got my very first ever, I'll talk about it later, but I got my very first ever, I also forgot about this, so it's not in my books to read this month, but I need to add it. I got my very first ever actual physical book sent to me by a publisher after writing a bunch of reviews, which I'm so proud of and so excited about. So if you're, and like I'm very small in the whole book review space, I'm just one little guy, but we can all start somewhere. So if you want to review books, do it. Anyways, this one was an ARC. Hi Pam, welcome in. I hope you're having a good day. I've given 1-star reviews for ARC reads. Yeah, I try to only read ARC books that interest me, right? Because I don't want to I don't want to waste my time reading a book that I know I'm gonna hate because it's not up my alley. But sometimes we read books that we think we're gonna enjoy and they don't work for one reason or another, and that's okay. So sometimes you gotta give it 1 star. Also, nice, Frezzo. Go NetGalley. Okay, so this is the book that I read. It was actually published this past month. It was published on, I wrote it down, October 10th. So if you would like, I am so sorry. Yeah, no, you're totally good. I don't allow links in this channel except by mods, just for like extra safety reasons. Thank you for understanding. Let me look. I'm gonna grab your link and post it for you. This audiobook review, it's on Amazon. It was of an ARC 1-star review. It's about Palestine. Okay, I'm posting it. So if anyone else would like to see the 1-star review, the 1-star ARC review, I'm checking too. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes it just does not work. But yeah, so this one was not a 1-star review. This one I did not rate 1 stars. I really liked this one. So again, this one came out October 10th. If you'd like to read it, you can get this one. It's out now. This is what's the word? It's a collection. It's an anthology. I feel like I was just recently trying to think of this word, or someone else was trying to think of this word in a stream. Anyways, this is an anthology of like asexual stories. But what is so cool about it is that it's not like, it's, how to say, it is a bunch of different like genres. So it's not all like, here's my experience. It's not all like memoir or first person or nonfiction. There's a ton of different types of stories here. Some are like personal experience. Many of them are fiction, but even the fiction ones cross so many genres and are so, like, this book made me remember how much I love an anthology. I really love reading a collection of shorter stories that share a central theme, so you can tell how they're related, but are also so vastly different because of different writing style, different like themes, genres, all that jazz. Anyways, I really loved this. Again, it's an anthology that focuses on like asexual love, asexual identities, but also it really the description of it is Being Ace, or the full title is Being Ace, an anthology of queer, trans, femme, and disabled stories of asexual love and connection. And that really captures that, like, these stories aren't, like, they do not just focus on, like, someone's asexual experience or understanding of asexual love. They absolutely cross into a bunch of different identities, different experiences, etc. Anyways, this had, I don't know exactly how many stories it has in it, but there's a good handful of stories, all written by a bunch of different authors and, like, edited and put together by Madeline Dyer. But, like, there's tons and tons of folks whose stories are in this book, and I cannot recommend it enough. I really loved it. I wanted to read this because I feel like I have been trying this year to do a better job of reading stories that highlight different identities and perspectives that I do not hold, just so that I can better understand my friends and the world around me and, just different people's experiences and perspectives. And so this was one that I was really drawn to for the sake of understanding different perspectives. But I was so blown away by how this was told and how, like, basically every story in this book was just so much more than like I felt like I learned so much, but not through, like, it wasn't like, this wasn't like an educational book. It was just a book that opened my eyes to a lot. Does that make sense at all? Anyways, highly recommend. So many of the stories have still really, really stuck with me, and so many of them were all of them were so creative and so just really cool. Just a really cool book. Highly recommend. One of the most magical things about reading. Yeah, literally. Oh, it was so good. So good. I have D&D in a second, so I have to go now. Yes, of course. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you. Enjoy D&D. Enjoy. But yeah, I really loved this one. Highly recommend. Like I mentioned, I did get this one for free. I got an ARC copy, but I really liked it, and I would totally recommend. I have to sniffle 1 second. Okay, sorry. My nose. I hear Ren running around. Okay, the next one that I got, not an ARC. I'll specify them so you know, like, how I read them or what I read. This is the book that I read. I have a physical copy. I got this one like a while ago, and I just was waiting for the right time to read it. So I read it in October for, like, Halloween scary time vibes, which I felt like was really good. This is what's the categorization? It is it's a horror book, but I feel like specifically it has some, like, gothic horror vibes. I don't know exactly what constitutes as gothic horror, so maybe it's not technically that, but it had those vibes. Or maybe I'm just biased because of Silvia Moreno Garcia's other books. But anyways, this is Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia. It's a horror book that is, like, it has, like, film, like, old school film stuff. I don't know a lot about old school film, or really film as a thing at all. But that didn't really hinder me, which was another really cool thing about this. Sometimes I feel like I have read books where they focus on a niche topic, and you sort of have to, like, care about that niche topic to enjoy them. This was not like that. I do not know anything about, like, old school film as a niche topic. Didn't matter. I totally enjoyed it regardless. But it's like old school film, cults, monster stuff, magic, sort of. Really, really good. This one was a really good, like, October Halloween time read. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I don't have anything, like, negative to say about this book. Like, I really enjoyed the characters a lot. I really enjoyed the overall plot. I really enjoyed the sort of theme. I think there were times where I felt like it was taking a little too long. It was interesting because I felt like most of the pacing was totally good, but there were like a couple of chapters that I felt like just went on a little bit longer than necessary. But I think sometimes that just happens to me when I read scary books because I'm like, I need to know what happens next. I need to know what's next. So yeah, I think that was maybe my only complaint. Also, this book reminded me a bit of, I don't know if anyone else has watched this. It was canceled after the first season, RIP, but there was a show on Netflix, I think called, one second, Netflix. It was called Archive 81. There's only one season of it because it got canceled after the first season. And like full disclosure, it ends on kind of a cliffhanger. So sorry. Thanks Netflix for canceling it. Rude. Anyways, there was a show on Netflix, Archive 81, that had also like scary stuff in film vibes. And this really reminded me of that, which I think actually enhanced my enjoyment of it because when I watched that show, I liked it so much. But yeah. I think that I read another book by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which was Mexican Gothic, and I liked Mexican Gothic better. But I still really, really liked this one. And it was like, I feel like Silvia Moreno Garcia does a really good job of making scary stuff that you sort of like fall into, and like at the beginning of the book everything seems so fine and normal and like just totally casual, and then by the end you're believing, you know, in the context of the book, you're believing in all this like really scary wild stuff, and you're sort of like, wait, how did I get here? And I love that feeling in scary books. I love that almost like slow descent into like madness or whatever you want to call it, and I think she does that particularly well. So I really liked this one. If you want a scary book, I know it's maybe not the season for it at this point, but it still is, so I would read it. I have beef with Netflix for canceling shows. Yeah, Netflix has been on a real like cancel all the shows moment, and it's a little frustrating. Yeah, but yeah, if you have read this book and you liked it and you're like, wow, how can I watch a show that's similar? Watch Archive 81 on Netflix, and then as soon as you finish it, look up the creators so that they can give you an explanation of what they were hoping to do after, because they didn't get to. It's always scary season. Yeah. Also, like winter, I feel like winter is still a good time to read scary stuff. For me, just like every month is Pride Month, every month is a good time to read scary books. Yes, exactly. I need water. But yeah, this actually kicked off then a trend of me reading a couple of scary books. So one thing about me, I'm like how I am particular about romance, I'm also particular about scary stuff. So I haven't read a lot of Stephen King, and I think it's because I'm afraid to be scarred for life. So I don't really prefer to, hi, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. It's so good to see you. I don't prefer to read like, I don't prefer to read like super scary stuff because I am a little baby. But like, and I don't prefer to read books that are like super, super violent. That's not usually my vibe in terms of horror, but I really like a book that will like one of the books that I read this month, it was described somewhere as like off-putting and unsettling. And I like that type of scary book. So I read a couple of books that weren't necessarily like horror or like the scariest books of all time, but they were definitely off-putting and unsettling. Let me tell you about them now. Stephen King is pretty nice IRL. Really? I don't know. Is he? I've only read one I think I've told some of y'all about this. I've only read one Stephen King book, and it wasn't good. And in my defense, other people disliked it as well. But I think it was a bad spot to start because now I don't want to read any other Stephen King. I was like, this isn't good. This isn't for me. Hi there, I saw you were talking about books and I'm always looking for other bookish creators. Hi, Last Lost Girl. Thank you for joining us. I also am looking for other bookish creators, so hello. Hello, fellow reader. I love books. I've been an enjoyer of books for quite some time, but at the beginning of this year we started actually formally making book talks or like book stuff more part of this community. So we have a book club in Discord, and then I do these monthly Books with Bella streams, and I have really enjoyed it. It's been so cool to branch out into this, so thank you for joining. Welcome in. We are currently just talking through all of the books that I read last month. So the next one that I read last month this is called Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Wang. And this was solidly unsettling. This one was like absolutely 100% unsettling. It was really, really, oh yeah, this one was just, where to even, so I don't know what this one, let me see what this one was like categorized as. It's categorized at, it is categorized as horror. Okay, so this is a horror book, surprise. It's like the beauty industry at its very worst, and the most dark and awful version of the beauty industry. Basically, it didn't leave, like, it's very solidly fiction, and it's not the kind of thing where you're gonna finish and be like, oh my gosh, that's really happening, because it's solidly fiction. So like sometimes when I find that I read, like, this is a book, it's another one of those books where like it starts out so normal and everything is so relatable and real and it feels very real, and then by the end you're like, oh my gosh, how did we get here? But like it's still very much, oh my gosh, how did we get here? Like you will finish this book and be like, whoo, scary fiction. But fiction. But it is really, I think a very creepy thing about this is that in some ways it feel like, for a lot of the book it feels really real, which is fun and a little scary. Anyways, it's very much like I said, the worst possible version of the beauty industry, and it gets pretty gross in a fun way. I don't know. Also, there's gay characters, so that's fun. Yay, queer. I really, really liked this one. It was one where I started this book and then finished it in like maybe 48 hours. Like I read it really, really quickly because I was totally sucked in. I really liked the characters. I find that I have been really lately enjoying books that like exist sort of in the world of like, what is it? Rich people, if that makes sense. Like I find that fascinating, particularly when the world of like rich people and luxury is painted in a bad light, because obviously. So the main character is not like a like super wealthy person, but the bad stuff that's happening exists sort of in that world of luxury, which I really enjoyed and just found compelling. I loved the main character. And it was just it was another like very much descend into madness book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think particularly if you're a person who like me has not the best feelings about the beauty industry, I think you'd enjoy it. This was good. Oh, it was just creepy. Also, I borrowed this one from my local library. Yay, libraries. But yeah, this one, it was unsettling. It was just very unsettling. I think my first reading experience was with Stephen King, and I love his books. I think I just need to read a Stephen King book that's better than the one that I read. But I think like usually when people talk about the best Stephen King books, they're like the most scary ones. So I don't know. I need to find a Stephen King book that's like scary, but not like, sorry, I had an itch on my ankle. Scary, but not gonna totally mess me up. Anyways, that one was this one. Like I said, if you like, it is horror, so if you like scary books, I think this would be a good one. But it's just it was very specific. I don't know how else to describe it. It was really weird. The next one that I read, which I'm also categorizing as a scary book, but it's not like, this one was not like, how is this one? What is this? This one is, okay, this is also categorized as horror. So I don't know why I'm like, I feel like I have this idea of horror as like, there's a really scary monster and it's coming after everyone and eating them up and there's blood everywhere. And I feel like that's what my brain says is horror, but like everything else is so scary as well. So this one is categorized as horror, but it's not like, there's not a scary monster. I don't know. I heard Billy Summers is a good, not super scary king book. I haven't read it though. I will add it to my list. I'm writing it down. Thank you. The one that I read by Stephen King, I think was The Outsider or something like that. Or like, that was like the vibe of the title, and it was just, I really didn't like it. I thought it was bad. I'm sorry. It started interesting and then it got bad. There's a short one of his that I really enjoyed. It's called Elevation, and it's not super scary per se, more just makes you think. Emotional and mysterious. Okay, I like that. I'm writing that down too. Nice. Also, I like the idea of a shorter story, because then I don't have to like commit a ton of time to deciding if I like it. I like it. So this was the next one that I read. Highly recommend this book. This one was like, I read a lot of good books last month. This one might have been my favorite, quite possibly. So this one is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. First of all, it's gay. We love that. Second of all, it's very like if you're afraid of the ocean, you might not vibe with this one. Just a fair warning. But like the idea is, wait, also I have this one. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Also, this one has a couple of different covers. This is the cover that I have, and I think it's really pretty, but there's another one as well. But like with, this is not a spoiler. The way that it starts is like, there's like two women, right? There's a woman and her wife. And this is also a dual perspective, but you get more of one perspective than the other. And basically, there are these wives. One of them is a marine biologist. Yes, a marine biologist. And she goes on a like submarine research mission, and something goes wrong. And then she like comes back wrong. And it is mainly about how the other wife processes that and what happens to them and what changes. But also you do get to understand the wife that was in the submarine. You hear a bit about her experience. It's like, it doesn't end a way that I expected. I personally really liked the ending. And a lot of like, it's very interesting because it focuses more on the experience of the not submarine wife, and it got negative reviews from some people because of that, but I found that perspective so compelling, like so compelling. I really loved this. It was very like, it was mysterious. It was not confusing, but I felt like there's so much information that you don't know, but in a good way. And it was really cool. I really liked this one. I cannot recommend it enough. It was so interesting, so chilling. This was another one that was sort of unsettling, but also like really, really sweet, because at the center of it all is the story of these wives who love each other. So yeah. I would highly, highly, highly recommend this one. It was so good. Yeah. Gonna put that on my TBR. It was really good. I feel like I'm still processing my thoughts on it, because it was just really interesting. It was just really, really interesting. I really liked it. Bleeding Earth by Caitlin Ward is a book I can always go back to and enjoy to read. I'm looking it up. If I can spell. Oh, interesting. Another horror. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Ooh. Elvin, this one looks really interesting. This looks super interesting. I feel like I don't read a lot of horror, but I really do like creepy and unsettling books. Also, I love a book with gay characters. I like that. That sounds like a really good recommendation. I like it. Okay, the next one, and this is my last one in a series of like kind of scary books, was this one. Which I think this one was not categorized as horror. It might have been, what was it, thriller or something? What is it? Yes, it's categorized as thriller, science fiction and thriller. Which, oh yeah, I have this one as well. Here it is. So I got a recommendation for this book when I went to a local bookstore, and I think I literally asked a bookseller like, hey, I'm looking for books that are like scary, but not like in the typical scary sense. I want something that's like unsettling. And she gave me this recommendation, and boy howdy, I really liked this book. So again, this is The Echo Wife, or not again, but this is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. It is a thriller, and it is, I feel like it was like twist and turn after twist and turn, but not in a bad way. And also like sometimes I feel like with like, I expected this book to be more mysterious than it was. And how do I explain? There was a bunch of mystery, and as I read through it, I was continuously asking questions. Like I never felt like I got to a point where I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand it. Like there was so much to not understand. But like the action, the like, whoa, starts right at the beginning. Like right at the beginning. There's not much like everything's normal and fine. And then suddenly, oh no. You're like, boom, oh no. Like, it's so interesting. This is, I think, maybe one that would be worth checking content warnings for, because it does get into some heavier topics. And there's a like, it's so interesting. It had me like, yeah, I would recommend this one. It was not what I expected, in that I expected for it to be slower almost, or like less action packed. And it's not like there was a ton of action, but it felt like there was a ton of action, because it was just constantly these big either events or big questions. It was thrilling. It was thrilling. Are thriller and horror different genres? Yes, but I guess I don't have a super strong understanding of the difference. Morg, you icon. They technically are. Horror usually involves a monster, whatever that looks like. Sorry, I stopped being able to read mid-sentence. And a thriller involves more mystery and investigation and chase scenes. It splices hairs sometimes, and there's a lot of overlap. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I think I think it's interesting because like that concept of a monster, I think, can be different in book to book, and sometimes a monster is literally like a monster, or sometimes the monster is a cult leader or a whatever. Like there's a bunch of different forms that monster can take, and sometimes that includes like a concept of a thing instead of like one specific monster, or like an entity is the monster, like a group. Whereas like sometimes there are monsters in thriller books. This one, like, I think the thing that made me feel like this was solidly thriller is that there was just so much, like, it was constantly this, like, you, like, uncovered a secret, and then there was another secret, and you uncovered that, and then there was another, and it was like this, and it sometimes I struggle with thriller because, like, I was talking about this recently. There was a book that I read. Okay, I don't know, I guess I don't know what category Riley Sager's books usually are. I don't know if they're horror or thriller or both or something else entirely. But sometimes my complaint with Riley Sager is that sometimes in his books he has too many twists, and I'm like, okay, settle down. That's too much. You have now lost me. Like, there are a lot of twists and I can't keep up, and it becomes, it goes so far that it goes too far, and then I'm no longer there. This book had a lot of twists and I was there for every single one. I was there. I was so there. Like, I really loved the twists, and sometimes the twists were like very plot, and sometimes the twists were very like in the character's head almost. But yeah, like this one, I feel like this was a good example of having a lot of twists and questions and like trying to parse these situations without it being over the top, or it wasn't over the top to me, if that makes sense. Yeah, I typically really like thriller and mystery, but I'm picky about that going too far thing. And horror I'm more sensitive to, because sometimes they're just too violent or too scary. I feel like he has the like girl getting ready trope. Like, just take one thing off and you're great. Exactly. He always, yes, he needs to like, he needs an editor to be like, okay, which twist can we remove? I'm not even reading the book yet, but which twist are you going to remove? His usually get shelved with psychological thriller, but there's a lot of horror elements. Yeah, I think his books are like horror setting, but thriller plot. Does that make sense? That's my opinion. This book was science fiction setting, thriller plot, which also I really liked the science fiction element of this. Like I said, I don't like to do too much spoilering. You figure out what the science fiction focus is basically immediately, and if you read anything about this book, you'll know what the science fiction bit of it is. But the science fiction element of it was something that I find very, very interesting as a concept, which really drew me to this book. But yeah. Anyways, I really liked this one. I think also this was also a book where like misogyny as a concept okay, if you recall, maybe a couple months ago or last month, I don't remember now, I read a book that I had negative things to say about because I felt like it was largely just like, this is the story of misogyny, and I felt like it was a very tired thing. Like, I was just like, okay, heard this before. This book had a lot of misogyny driving parts of the plot. It was sort of like, how did we get in this situation? Oh, misogyny. But it wasn't the star of the show. And so I felt like it was interesting for me to like read this and think about how annoyed I was at the book that I read a while ago that was like too much misogyny focused, and compare to this where I was like, misogyny as a driving force or theme I felt like was very well used. Does that make sense? A very difficult theme to find balance with. Yes, like I don't prefer when a book is like the whole entire plot, the whole entire situation is just a telling of misogyny. Like, I just find that to be a little bit tired. We have enough misogyny in real life. Like, I'm over it. But I really did not mind this idea of like, I really did not mind this idea of misogyny contributing to the situation in this book. Does that make sense? Like misogyny was in a lot of the elements of the book. Like, it impacted the main character. It impacted the situation that they were in. Like, it really was there, but it wasn't just like it wasn't the only thing. I don't know. I can't explain it. I really liked it, and I thought it was like a very interesting thing to read and compare to the book that I complained about a while ago. Highly recommend this one, particularly if you're interested in like those thriller vibes. Also, it has a very like strong female main character, which I really liked the main character, and I feel like the main character also has some like pretty significant flaws, which is also something that I really like. I love a gray character, you know? I've always wanted to stream about books too, but I'm nervous it won't appeal to anyone. I will be there. You let me know when I will be there. I think it's definitely, it feels like, I guess this is the thing with Twitch in general. or probably streaming, but particularly Twitch in general, it feels a lot harder to sort of like find your niche. I think Twitch doesn't do as good of a job as some other platforms or like other social media platforms at like serving you the content that's relevant to you. Like with Bookstagram, you can like post about books and boom, you find people that are interested in books. But with streaming, it takes a lot more time. So anyways, if you ever stream about books, you let me know and I'm there. I am so there. Have you read Magic for Liars by the same author? It's on my TBR. No, but I think one of my friends read or was going to read another book by this author, Just Like Home, which looked really, really good. I'll have to add, hello, my body. I'll have to add Magic for Liars as well, because I really liked this writing style. I really, really, really liked. Ooh, I love the cover for Magic. I love the cover of Magic for Liars. It's so pretty. Okay, I'm adding it to my list. I love it. That's so good. My cat moved. Okay, you can't see from here, but I had two like flower pillows, and they were sort of right next to each other, but she like moved around enough that now they're on top of one another and she's laying on top of both of them. She's so baby. Oh, no worries. Sometimes I send messages in chats that are just my cat accidentally standing on my keyboard. It happens. It's all good. Oh my gosh. I'll be mostly lurky because I'm on the bus, of course. I'll get sick when I read/write. Yes, I totally get that. I'll just listen to your wrap up instead. Sounds good. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, so like I said, this one was really good, and this was my last one of my books that I read last month that were like horror focused, that were like scary or horror or thriller or something like that. Then basically, so as we've talked about a bit, I started doing some fundraising for to help provide aid and also raise awareness for the situation in Palestine. And one of the, like, basically a major thing that I did towards the end of this month was like stop all of my books that I was planning on reading and start reading some books that were focused on the situation in Palestine and also like Palestinians' experience. So I read 3 books at the end of last month that was focused on that. So I'm going to talk a little bit more. So like all of the next books that I read with that aim. So if you, like me, have been hoping to learn a little bit more about like what Palestinians are currently experiencing with respect to like Israel's violence. Also, I'll talk more about them, but I would recommend these books if you're hoping to learn more, and I'll talk more about each of them, of course. So the first one that I read, this one I just got done the quickest because it was on the shorter side. I listened to the audiobook of this one. So if you're looking for an audiobook, would recommend. I know I said I wasn't going to type, but I highly recommend the novella Mother Country by Itaf Rom. Okay, adding it to my list. Thank you. Really appreciate the recommendations on stuff like this. Also, the cover is really beautiful. Thank you. So this one, it's a like collection of, it says, it's described on, so this is Freedom is a Constant Struggle, Ferguson, Palestine, and the Foundations of a Movement, written by Angela Y. Davis. This is a collection of essays, interviews, and speeches from Angela Y. Davis, who's like a well-known activist. So they're all basically, she makes connections between Palestine, Ferguson, and like similar movements that are about sort of the experience and resistance of oppressed people, if that makes sense. So this one was very, very interesting because it's not like, this offered a little bit of history into the situation in Palestine, but that wasn't the main focus. Also, the audiobook is read by the author, which I really like. Anyways, I think a really, let me make my words make sense. A really important and impactful thing that this book did, in my experience of reading it, was contextualize the situation in Palestine, not just like, I've been doing a lot of research on the historical context of Palestine, and like the piece of land, like Israel's creation and why and when that happened and what that meant for Palestinians, etc. I've been doing a lot of like historical education just from like websites and podcasts and things like that. But a thing that I don't always get from understanding the historical context of the region is like, what is the political context and how does it relate to other things? Like, what is the overall context? How does it connect to other things, particularly for us in the US? Not to like make it about us in the US, but I think that like it's really important I live in the United States. It's really important to me that I understand the United States' connection to Palestine, because we do have a really strong connection in that the US funds Israel and is currently funding Israel's horrible violence. And this one did a really good job of connecting all of these situations in together. Also, Angela Y. Davis is like a phenomenal speaker, so it was really like a lot of the things that were in this book were her speeches, so it was really cool to like hear her speeches and hear her thoughts. Yeah. Anyways, I would totally recommend this one, especially again, if you're looking for not just a history lesson and not just a politics lesson, but a sort of like, why should I care? What does this mean for a people? Like, what does it mean for Palestinians? And how does it relate to and connect to us in the United States? I would recommend this one. I need to pick up some Palestinian books you've read, because I'm also finding myself at a loss as an American for knowing the whole context of the events going on. Yeah, and I think I've talked about this a lot. The best thing that we can do is start somewhere with our education. Pick up one book or one podcast, or just start somewhere. And this was one of those things where there were a lot of books on my list and a lot of them were very long, but this one was not super long. And so this was a really good spot to start. And it really helped me understand, okay, how is this all related? Because a really important thing, in my opinion, to understand about the situation in Palestine is that it is not like, it didn't just start this past month. It's not a brand new thing, and it's also not happening in a bubble. The United States is involved, and a lot of the stuff that I've been trying to like read and understand is historical, political, and like just general like wider context, and this was a really helpful thing for that, so would recommend. So the next one that I read, also worth noting, all of the books that I have read, obviously, or this should be obvious, have all, not obvious as in like, this is obvious information, but I'm just going to explain it. This is important information. All of the books that I've read that are related to Palestine have all been published, of course, before the current situation. So like, if you would like to learn about what's going on right now, you have to learn from like sources that are much faster than book publishing. So internet sources, social media, journalists who are like there experiencing things right now. So it's just worth noting that the books that I have read so far do not capture the current experience, but the situation in Palestine is based on a lot of historical context, so there's still a lot to learn in books. Okay, so the next one that I read is called Except for Palestine, The Limits of Progressive Politics by Mark Lamont Hill and Mitchell Plitnick. This one is pretty dense, and I will say a good bit of it went over my head, so I think that's a good warning, I guess, to give. Not like not like don't read it, but just like just know what you're getting into, I suppose. So I picked up this book to get a little bit more like political context, again, particularly about the United States' role in the politics of Israel and Palestine. And I definitely got that. There was a lot that I learned in here that I did not know about, and there's a lot that has really stuck with me. Like, this book opened my eyes to a lot, like a bigger understanding of the BDS movement, which is something that I mentioned earlier today. That stands for Boycott, Divest, and Sanction, and it's about boycott, divestment, and sanctions on Israel in sort of like protest of their violence against Palestine. Including that I learned that there are some states in the United States that have anti-BDS laws. And this is something that I had actually sort of recently heard about on like social media that I thought it just didn't make any sense to me. But there are, like, the United States has attempted to, or at least parts, like there are folks in the United States who think that it should be illegal to boycott based on political motives, which is the most absurd concept. Like, boycotting as political action is so integral to what am I trying to say? Not divestment, to democracy, in my opinion. Like, the idea that anyone would be against that is so absolute nonsense to me. Anyways, I got more context on that from this book. It's a lot of political context of, like, again, the United States politics related to Israel, and particularly in the context of Israel, committing violence against Palestine. What motivation other than political would you have to boycott something? Yeah, like, it doesn't make any sense. And, like, in my opinion, a key facet of democracy is being able to make decisions with political motives. Like, we are able to, like, that, it just seems, in my brain, it is so core to democracy that it makes no sense to me. But it really highlights that this book really, really helped highlight how connected the United States is with Israel, which is, like, it really helps me understand why it's so important for us as citizens in the United States. And I'm talking about me and my US peers. I know not everyone here is from the United States, but this book really helps me understand how critical it is that we understand what's going on and get involved by contacting our representatives, keeping tabs with what our representatives are doing, and making sure that our voice is heard, and that we like, anyways, going back to the first thing that I said, I will reiterate that this one is very dense and has a lot of, like, technical political language that, to be quite honest, a good bit of I didn't understand, and there was a lot of, like, I had to sort of pause and look things up. It's a book that's on the shorter side, so I would totally recommend this if you're interested in getting some more political context, particularly with respect to the United States. I would recommend it with the caveat that, like, you might want to read it in small chunks and you might have to do a little bit of extra research, or maybe you just know a lot more about politics than I do, and that's totally cool too. But as someone who does not know a ton about politics, this was one that sort of I had to read a little bit slowly, and I had to do a little bit of extra research, and I know for sure that there were things in this book that went over my head, and that's okay. I still gained a lot of understanding about like where this stands with politics. This was also a really helpful one for understanding. This one was very solidly like, what is the political context? And it helps me understand how far back the political context goes as well. So really, really, really interesting read. There were a couple of, like, key things that really stuck out to me in this book, including that concept of anti-BDS laws in the United States, which is just absurd to me. Also, it sort of made this connection to the United States and Israel as, like, the United States funds Israel so that Israel can do the dirty work in the Middle East so that then the United States can benefit from having access to the resources that exist in the Middle East. And I think that's a really helpful way of understanding the US's role and connection to Israel. So really helpful political context, I think. Yeah, I want to mention something that happened in my campus, but it does mention content warning, gun or trigger warning, gun violence. You can mention it and we'll just do like a trigger warning to everyone. So don't read Elvin's next message if that's uncomfortable to you. And I might not read it aloud on stream, just a heads up. You're welcome to put it in chat, but I might not read it aloud just because it might make me uncomfortable, but you're welcome to share because we're talking about big stuff today. Sorry for my sniffles. Please forgive me. But yeah, so again, I would recommend this one, but I think it's very possible that like it's I would say it's not the most accessible book because it was very much full of like political jargon and just political stuff. So then the very last book that I have to talk about of the books that I read last month, which also the last book I borrowed an audiobook from my local library. And this one I borrowed, I'm just covering my library name. I borrowed the book from my library, so thank you, library. Thank you. Anyways, where were we? So this one is, again, another book that I read in my pursuit of kind of having a more solid understanding of the situation in Palestine. This one is written, so this is, I saw Ramallah by, sorry, I can't read. By Mareed Barghouti, who is, so the author is a, like, I'm gonna get my words, is like a poet. He writes poetry and he is Palestinian. So this is I think this is categorized as a memoir. I'm pretty confident. Let me double check. Yes, it's categorized as like a biography or memoir. So it is nonfiction. And it's also not poetry, but what's really interesting is that some of his poetry does show up in the book, which I really liked. I thought it was very cool to sort of understand the author's story and see how it related to his poetry. I highly recommend this one. I really liked this one. Like I mentioned, the author is a Palestinian and a poet. So I really, really appreciated his writing style because it was very like, so this is a book about the author's experience, sort of like the situation in Palestine. So I'm not an expert, I don't know everything, but an important thing to understand is that like Palestine right now, like all parts of Palestine are effectively controlled by Israel. So the West Bank is occupied by Israel. It is like under Israel control. And Gaza, although not technically occupied by Israel, it is controlled by Israel because all of the borders are controlled by Israel and they have effectively, like it is frequently talked about as an open air prison because Israel does not let people in or out, does not let resources in. They have blocked, like they have complete control of the borders. They control what goes in and out, and they are not nice about it. Nice is not even like, I don't know why I chose that wording, but like they are using that control to harm Palestinians. Yeah, okay. Just important information. So for a lot of Palestinians also, the land around Gaza and in much of the West Bank includes land where Palestinians used to live and they were forced out of their homes. And there are a couple different instances throughout history of Palestinians being forced out of their homes. So the reality for a lot of like Palestinian individuals right now is that they do not live on their homeland, and they're not even able to go to their homes. So the author of this book was separated from his like family and home in Palestine, and this is an experience of like that separation, of returning to visit, and sort of what the experience of like being a Palestinian outside of Palestine and also visiting Palestine is. That's sort of like a quick summary of parts of the book, but it's a lot about like an actual sort of realistic account of Palestine. But what was really cool about this book is because the author is a poet, I think he does a really incredible job of capturing not just the like facts, the reality of the situation, but the like feeling of it almost. And it was really moving to hear not just about like, this is how difficult it is to visit my family, this is what the process is of trying to get back into Palestine to visit my family, but this is what it felt like to be back in a city where I haven't been able to be for years and years and years. This is the memories that are coming to mind when I'm here. It was just a very like human experience, or a human, I felt very like emotionally connected to this story. And I think reading stuff like this is really, really important because it helps us better understand the like very real human experience of Palestinians, of people in Palestine of Palestinians outside of Palestine with family in Palestine, etc. Highly recommend this book. It's not like you will understand some like political context of Palestine because the author sort of explains what the situation is in terms of getting in or out of Gaza or the West Bank. But it's not like a history lesson. It's just it's a memoir. So if you like memoirs, I highly recommend this. The writing style is like it's very poetic and very beautiful. And it's definitely one that you'll be able to sort of empathize with the author. So I really liked this one. Yeah, I really liked this one. Okay, and with that, we have officially gotten to the end of all of the books that I read last month. So again, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I read 9 books in total last month. 3 of them were focused on learning about Palestine. And I highly recommend all 3 for different reasons. Also, all of the books that I read last month, I would recommend. Like, I think like maybe the month prior or 2 months ago or something, I know I read some books that I like didn't recommend, but every single book that I read last month I would recommend. So there were the 3 books that were for the sake of learning more about Palestine. I read 4 scary books, 1 arc that was an anthology about asexual stories, and then 1 fun little romance book. So I really liked all of them. If you're looking for recommendations, would recommend. And like I mentioned, I usually post on my website like a sort of recap of everything, all of the books that I talk about on stream. I try to do that before this stream, but I wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to do it before I went live today, so you'll be able to catch that after stream today if you'd like a little recap of all of the books that I mentioned. But yeah, those were all of my October books. Did y'all have any books that you read in October that you liked, or are you hoping to read any of the books that I mentioned? Anyways, let's talk more about my books for this upcoming month, which also I'm going to start by mentioning, and I'm going to be really careful to not show the front of this. I mentioned this earlier, but I got my very first ever book sent to me by a publisher. And it's because I talk about books both on Twitch, and also I have like an Instagram for book stuff. You can find it. It's there. I have like been able to add myself to a couple different lists of requesting books, like copies of books to review. So I got sent a book based on my interests, and it's this one. And I forgot to add it to my list of books to read this month, so I'm just gonna show you and talk about it. But it's not on my like official list, but I'll add it. But yeah, this is the book. I really love the front. It's this like matte black, and then the words on it are like I don't know what that is. Not sparkly, but shiny, rainbow shiny. I don't know. It's called The Little Book of Aliens by Adam Frank, and it's a space book. It's a space book. It's about space. I think basically it talks about like the like, are there other people in space? Or not people, but entities? Are aliens real? But it's like it's about space. There's gonna be some space learning, so I'm very excited about this one. Yes, holographic. I think it is like a holographic sort of shift on the cover. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, and like I mentioned, I got access to this one. Thanks HarperCollins. Appreciate ya. Because I have like I'm able to like get myself on lists to request books, to get copies of books to review. So I'm gonna read this one, give it a review, so I'll let you know. Like all of so we're in the part of stream where I'm gonna talk about the books that I'm going to read this month, so books that I have not yet read. So I obviously do not have any thoughts about them yet. I'll tell you like why they're on my list and if I know a little bit about them. But obviously I won't be able to tell you if I recommend them because I haven't read them yet. If you have read them and do recommend them, please let me know though. But yeah, so this book came out last month. I think it came out like mid-October. It's about space. If you don't already know this about me, I really love learning about space. So this is written by an astrophysicist. I've read a couple of other books about space. I really like learning space stuff. So I'm really excited to learn some more space facts, and maybe we'll get to, I used to have a channel point redemption for space facts, but I like exhausted I didn't have a good source of space facts recently, so it's currently not available, but maybe we'll read this and then bring back space facts so I can tell you all the cool facts that I learned from the book. But yeah, I'm really excited about that one. Again, I did get that one for free. It's not an advanced copy because it's already been published, but I got it like when it was published so that I can give it a review, so I'm hoping to do that very soon. Yeah, that's my first book to mention. My next one, so this was actually, I'm behind. For the first time ever, I'm reading a book club book in the next month. I got behind on books because I just changed my prioritization of books. So this is our October, which I've already started, I just haven't finished it. This is our October book club pick. So as I've mentioned, we have a book club in the Discord. We read a book. We read one book a month and then we discuss it at the end of the month, sometimes at the beginning of the following month. If anyone, including me, is running a little bit behind, it's me. I'm running a little bit behind. So yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm partway through already. I have the audiobook and the physical book, so we'll be good. If anyone else is last minute, yes. It feels like I'm not the only one. I think a lot of us struggled to fit this one in October, and I don't know why, because I am really excited about it. I just couldn't finish it in October. I just couldn't do it. I don't know. I just spaced it out, and you can still read this book for book club if you read 75 pages a day. Cool. So we're having our book club discussion on Wednesday afternoon. So if you haven't read it yet, 75 pages a day, and you can join us. If you have already read it, we'll be talking about it on Wednesday. Yeah, this month, I read a lot this month. I just didn't, my planning for my reading didn't work out well. I've had a rough reading this month, honestly. And also I mentioned this pretty much every single time we do these book streams. Since starting this, I have read a lot, basically every single month. And I think it's at least partly because doing these streams makes me really excited about reading, and so it's helped keep my motivation for reading really high. But there have been months in recent years where I read 0 books. and that's okay. And it might happen again. Please don't ever feel like you have to read every single month, or like it doesn't matter how much you read. If you read 0 books in a month, that's fine too. Like, it's totally fine. But yeah. It feels like a lot of us were just couldn't fit this one in. And again, I want to be so clear. It's not that I wasn't excited about it. I am really excited about it. my time management doesn't exist. But yeah, so this was our October book club pick. We are discussing it on Wednesday. I'm very excited to talk about it. I've heard so many, like I said, I'm partway through and I like it so far. But I've heard so many people really like TJ Klune, so I know it's going to be good. I listened to the audiobook for this one. It was great. Okay, perfect. I read part of the physical book and then I downloaded the audiobook just in case. But I hadn't started listening to it yet, so I wasn't sure what to expect. But I'm glad. Yeah, so this is our October book club book. This is literally every single other book club I've been able to finish. Even if I finish it right at the end of the month, I finish it in the month that we're reading it. But not this one. Or I guess, wait, no, maybe there might have been another one where I read the last few pages. I'm less than halfway done with this though, which is unlike me. But this was our October pick. And then our November pick. So this one I'm going to try to read not at the very end of the month, so I don't do this 2 months in a row. But our November book club pick is Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed, which is... What's this one? It's fantasy. Ooh, and horror. Ooh, a horror book. I sort of forgot. So this one is going to be on the darker side because it's horror, but it's also a fantasy book. This one was, all of the books that we read for book clubs are recommended by someone in book club. Sometimes it's me, but more frequently it's someone else that's in the book club. So I think this one might have been recommended possibly by Ariel, if not by someone. And I'm really excited about this. And I think I've heard really good things about Ava Reed. So I'm excited for this one. That's our November pick. So I encourage myself and all of us, to start this sooner than at the very end of November. I read The Wolf and the Woodsman, and that one was incredible. I'm going to have to pick this up this month. Join us. I'm really excited about this one. I've never read anything by Ava Reed, so I don't have any opinions yet, but I've heard really good things, so I think it'll be cool. Another one that I'm hoping to read this month is Against the Loveless World by Susan Abulhawa. I forgot to look up pronunciation, so I hope that is correct, but I'll look it up. But this one is, let me just tell you more about it. This one's fiction, excuse me, but it's written by, it's written, it's fiction, but it focuses on the story of, I believe, at least, I think that there are characters in this story that are Palestinian and either live outside of Palestine or are returning to Palestine. I don't know much about it because like I've mentioned, I really like to go into books not knowing a whole lot about the plot. I know everyone has different opinions on this, but that's just I like to, I'll learn just enough about it to know that I want to read it and then learn nothing more. So this is one that I've wanted to read in the continuing in my trend of learning more about Palestine, but I was really hoping to, and so did, add a fiction book, because I really like being able to learn about and hear voices through fiction, because I think sometimes people talk about fiction as not true, and how do I explain this? I think that you can learn a lot from fiction. Just because fiction is not based on an actual factual story that happened doesn't mean that it doesn't capture real experiences and voices and opinions and etc. Anyways, this one has been on this has been recommended to me by a ton of different people and on a bunch of different lists for like learning more about the Palestinian experience. So I don't know a whole lot more about that. It has really incredible reviews. Like, it has one of the highest average reviews that I've ever seen on Storygraph, which is really cool to see from like a good number of reviews. So I'm really excited about this one, and I'm excited to read a fictional book that still highlights the Palestinian experience. So if anyone wants to read this with me, please let me know. I got like an ebook copy from my local library. I might do an audiobook. I think there was an audiobook of it as well. But if anyone wants to read this with me, let me know, because it looks really good. Cool. Okay. Then basically everything else that I have on my list for this month is ARC books. So like I mentioned, ARC books are books that I get early access to, so that I can leave reviews for them. So I've gotten access to these books for free. I have ebooks of all of them, but I get them so that I can give them a review. So some of these, sometimes this happens where I end up having to like stack my month with like some of these books I intended to read last month, but I reprioritized my to read towards the end of the month to focus on learning about Palestine. And so a lot of them were pushed to this month. And so I sort of have to read them this month so that I can get my reviews in on time. So I don't always love that. Like, it's not my favorite situation to be in, to feel like I have to read something at a certain time. So we'll see sort of how that goes. But I am really excited about all of these books, so it is what it is. But I think it's worth kind of giving all the full context that I have sort of put myself into a corner where I have to read these books now because I put them off because I prioritized reading other books. So, first up is The Happy Couple by Noisha. I know how to say her name, and I still mess it up because of my silly little American brain. Noisha Dolan. I read another one of her books, Exciting Times, and I loved it. It was I loved her writing style so much. So this is a book that comes out, I believe, very soon. This one, it comes out on November 7th. So if this seems interesting to you, you can get it in just a few days. If you read Exciting Times, then like maybe you'll recognize this author. Anyways, I loved Exciting Times. I literally don't know anything else about this book other than that I loved the author's other book, or first book. So I was really excited to read this. I got access actually to the audiobook version. So I don't have, I requested the ebook and I requested the audiobook, and I was denied for the ebook, but I got access to the audiobook, and I was like, that's fine. I'm so excited. I'll take what I can get. So I'm going to be listening to the audiobook of it. But like I said, I'm really excited about this one because I loved the other book by this author. But that's everything I know. It's fiction. That's it. That's all I know. The next one that I have, again, another ARC. This one comes out also on November 7th, so this one comes out very, very soon. It's called Something About Her by Clementine Taylor. I don't know much about this one. I was intrigued by it because it had the LGBTQIA tag. So I think the main characters are queer, but it is not tagged as a romance book, which is sort of interesting. It's just like literary fiction. But I was totally drawn to it, one, because I am drawn to books that have queer characters, and two, the cover looks so cool. So I'm really excited about this one. Like I said, it comes out in a couple days on the 7th, so yeah, excited about it. So the next one, I have two books next on my list. One is an ARC and one is not an ARC. But the ARC, I'm nervous that I'm not gonna like it. I'm gonna be honest and say that I'm nervous I'm not gonna like it. I requested it because I like to sometimes throw in like light-hearted romance books, and this is one. So I was excited. It is a sequel, so I'm reading the first book first, and then I will read the second book, which is an arc. And so I'm a little bit nervous because I haven't read the first one first, but I was like, I think it's gonna be good, but part of me is nervous. So anyways, this is the first of the book. It's called Seasons of Love by Helena Greer. I have heard good things about Helena Greer, so I'm hoping that I will like it, but I just am nervous that I won't because I'm picky about romance. So that's the only reason that I'm nervous. And then the second book, which is the arc, is called For Never and Always. So this is the book that comes out. This one comes out November 28th, so towards the end of this month. They're both romance books. I don't know what it is that makes me nervous that I won't like them, but something makes me nervous. So I'm hoping that I like them. I should have read the first one before requesting the arc, but I just was like going in optimistically, so we'll see how it goes. If you've read either of these, please tell me what you thought. Also, welcome in. Hi, Raiders. Chloe Fluff. Hello. I'm optimistic, but I'm just nervous. I feel like I'm always nervous going into romance because sometimes it doesn't work for me. But honestly, I feel like I'm in a moment right now where I'm very excited to read like almost any romance book because I want to get a better understanding of what I like and don't like in romance. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I'm very like particular about the romance books that I read. I used to think that I hated romance, but really I'm just very picky about romance. But I don't feel like I have a super strong understanding of what I like, what I prefer and don't prefer. Like, I know that I prefer light on the spiciness, but other than that, like, there's still particularities that I have and I don't know what they are. So anyways, I'm nervous that I won't like these, but I'm really excited to, at the very least, I will get a better understanding of what I like or don't like in romance. I'm super excited to read my Cozy Autumn TBR. Yes. I love that. I read a lot of like scary books last month for Halloween. And I have a lot of ARC books this month that I sort of like early access review books that I've gotten. So this is one of them. I get access to particularly ebooks sometimes before they're published in exchange for honest reviews. So I've got a couple of books that I need to read and review. And usually I like to sort of space them out so I have plenty of time to read them like at my leisure when I'm ready for it. But last month I like switched around a lot of what I was planning to read at the last minute. And so I'm sort of locked into like needing to read a couple of books this month, which makes me nervous. I hope it doesn't impact my view of them, but I recently read The Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana, and I can't recommend it enough. I'm adding it to my list. Let me add it to my list. I think I've heard of, like, it sounds vaguely familiar. Oh my gosh, I love that cover also. That looks so good. I've heard such good things about that one. Okay, nice. I think the cover looks vaguely familiar. I like it. So then my last book that's on my list for next month, which is another ARC, is Yours for the Taking by Gabrielle Korn. And this one it's speculative fiction, which I enjoy, but also it's tagged as like dystopian. It says it takes place in the year 2050. Also, the main characters are queer. So, and I love dystopian books. Dystopian, I feel like, is another one that can be sort of hit or miss for me. I feel like sometimes dystopian is like not incredible, but I love dystopian as a genre, and I'll read basically any book if there are queer characters. So I'm really excited about this one. Also, I think the cover is really neat. So I'm very excited. I have a lot of good books. This upcoming month. Also, this one will be published next month. This one comes out December 5th. So yeah, those are my books. Those are my books. Yeah, Ariel, thank you so much for mentioning that. But Raiders, if any of y'all need to go take a screen break, I know streaming can be a lot, but also watching stream for a bit can be a lot. So feel free to take a screen break if you need it. Go get some water. Take care of yourselves. We are very, very lurker friendly around here. Thank you, Ariel, for reminding us. Thank you. Thank you. It was amazing. I haven't stopped thinking about it since. I really love books where they sort of like take over your brain a little bit and you like keep thinking of them. Like the book that I read last month, Our Wives Under the Sea, was very much a book that I have like kept thinking about. Like it just keeps sort of like coming up in my brain. It like really stuck with me. Yeah, love queer dystopian. Yes. I'll be lurking slightly. Yes. Gonna make dinner, of course. Transferring from PC to phone. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoy your dinner. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. So those are all of the books. Like I said, those are all of the books that I have planned to read for this month. I feel like there's a good chance that I switch things around. And I have a lot of audiobooks this month. And I do find that when I read a lot more audiobooks, I'm often able to read more because I'll read audiobooks. Like when I read audiobooks, I have to be like doing something. Like I cannot sit still and read an audiobook. My brain is just like, it won't do that. But I love audiobooks for like when I'm cleaning, when I'm going for walks, sometimes even when I'm playing games. Like lately I've been playing the Suika game and listening to audiobooks, which is such a good combination. It's so perfect. But I find that if I have a lot of audiobooks to read in a month, I'll end up reading more because I am able to like read physical books when I'm sitting down and then read audiobooks when I'm like actively doing stuff. So I'm optimistic for a good full reading month, but we'll see what happens. I also finally read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I read that one a couple months ago and I really enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook for that one because I felt like I needed to hear her voice in it. Yes, I listened through most of the audiobook for I'm Glad My Mom Died while prepping for Etsy shop product launch. Congrats, that's exciting. But yeah, I listened to the audiobook on that one and it was really tough, but it was such a phenomenal book. Yay, I'm so glad we have audiobook lovers in the chat. Hearing her tell her story was so good. Yeah, and I think I tend to really enjoy audiobook, like memoir audiobooks read by the author really are like really great for me. Like I also listened to Page Boy by Elliot Page, his memoir on audiobook because he like read it on the audiobook. And I think it probably depends on the memoir. Like I think some memoirs aren't necessarily as emotional as others, which is fine. It's not like better or worse. But I think for like in particular, I'm Glad My Mom Died was so emotional that I think it really benefited from having the author Jeanette McCurdy read the audiobook so you could really understand the emotions. I need more audiobook recs. Well, I'm trying to think, what are the audiobooks? I didn't listen to a lot of audiobooks last month actually, but this month will be, this month will be big on audiobooks, and I'll tell you what I like. Oh, but we did the audiobook that I read last month that I highly recommend, we were talking about earlier, is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. It's romance, it's lighthearted, but the audiobook was so good. It has it's a dual perspective, and there's different narrators for both, which I love. I find that almost all books that I read on audiobook I like. Like it's very rare for me to find an audiobook that I dislike. Like there's one book that I started reading and I listened to the audiobook and the only thing that sometimes happens I find is like if I start reading a book and then I switch to audiobook, if the like particularly in books that are written in first person, if the narrator like does not match the voice that I had imagined for the main character, sometimes I can't do it. But it's not even that I dislike it. It's just that like sometimes I'm like, this is not what I had in mind. Also, Namora, I feel like I read your messages way earlier and didn't even say hi, so hello. Please forgive me. An upright lion, hello, welcome in. Yeah, audiobooks can totally feel more immersive, or yes, like you're listening to a friend talk about something. Like sometimes there's different preferences. Like sometimes I prefer to read a physical book because I can usually read a physical book faster. And sometimes I find that like I just need my own pacing so that I can imagine things better. Like sometimes it's different. Like sometimes I prefer a physical book. But sometimes with audiobooks, like the voices, like when narrators do different voices for different characters, or when there's different narrators for different characters, it feels so much more immersive than I could do in my own head. You know what I mean? And I love that. I love that. I have to preview the narrator first. Yes, in fiction, I really like if they can change their voice depending on character. Yes, huge agree. I love hearing different voices for different characters because I find that is something that makes it so much more immersive. And I also basically always listen to a preview before purchasing the audiobook. And it's not because like, it's fully not that I've never like listened to a preview and been like, ooh, I don't like their voice, because that's not really like, it's not like or dislike. The only thing is that I feel like it has to like match what I'm expecting for the character. And sometimes someone just has a different interpretation, which is like so fine, but it'll like take me out of the book and then I just can't do it. Oh my God. Yes, Ariel. That's like, okay, 10 out of 10 recommendation for an audiobook. If you're looking for an audiobook recommendation, we read The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi for book club a couple months ago by S.A. Chakraborty, right? And I read some of the physical book and listened to some of the audiobook, and that audiobook was one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. Like it was the narrator, there were two narrators, they were both so phenomenal, so good. And there were certain like conversational elements of the written book that the narrators just like knocked out of the park. It was so good. 10 out of 10. Yeah, sometimes it throws off the experience, and it's not about the narrator being like good or bad. It's just like we all have different expectations. I love putting an audiobook on 1.5 speed. Yeah. I need to listen to more audiobooks again. Highly recommend Amina Al-Sarafi. So good. Audiobooks with multiple narrators can be great, almost cinematically vivid. Yes. Yeah. Like I think like that was one of the things that I really liked about the Flatshare audiobook, is that like I felt like I could experience the characters so much like deeper, if that makes sense, because I could understand their voices, which was really cool. That's me with YouTube videos. Like a tone in someone's voice can put me off. Yeah, I think we just all have different experiences. Like I listen to a lot of ASMR. I'm an ASMR enjoyer. And ASMR is one of those things where like there are some really popular ASMR creators who clearly make incredible content that I cannot listen to because it just doesn't work for me. Like we just all have different experiences and different preferences. If I like a narrator, I also look up the other books they read. Yes, I love the narrator for Emily Henry books, and she narrates all of Emily Henry books and I think some other books as well. And I always love her narration. I think she does a great job. I also find if I'm struggling to read a physical book, listening to it really helps. Yes, sometimes the audiobook will help like pull me into a story in a way that a physical book can't. And I also find, because I'm able to listen to an audiobook while cleaning, going for a walk, whatever, I talk about this a lot, particularly during our co-working streams. I am a very distracted and distractible person. I have to do a lot of work to make myself focus, which can be a struggle, but like it's just a part of me. It's just the reality of my brain, and I just have to find ways to work with it. It is what it is. But I find with reading, sometimes I simply cannot focus on the words on a page. Like, I cannot do it. And with an audiobook, since I'm able to like listen while doing something with my hands, like while doing something else, it's sometimes I like, if I cannot focus on a physical book, I can focus on an audiobook, which is really, really cool. And it makes it so that even when my brain is like way too spicy, cannot calm down enough to read, I can still read, which is really nice. A lot of the time I might listen along as I read. Yes, sometimes I do that as well, as I'll listen to the audiobook and have the physical book in front of me, which is really nice. And it helps like keep me on track. The Nimona audiobook was really well done. Great cast. Oh, I didn't realize there was an audiobook. That's so cool. It's kind of like old radio shows. Yes, totally. The best example I know of is the audiobook for World War Z, which I found even more vivid and immersive than the film adaptation. Oh, that's so interesting. I love an immersive audiobook. But it is like sometimes I would prefer to imagine the characters' voices and everything on my own. Like sometimes that's more immersive to me, but sometimes an audiobook is just so immersive and so good. It's almost like someone reads to you when you follow along in text. Yes. Oh, and I love doing that. I love following along. Also, hi, Faye. Welcome in. Thank you for being here. Not first. I appreciate it. We're talking about books today, you know. Often my brain seeks stimuli in sound, but not sight. So it's like nice to be able to be immersed in a story without my eyes having to work. Yes, I find that if I'm reading a physical book, I have to listen to music, or sometimes I'll watch ASMR videos, or I will play a like nature sounds video. It's interesting that you say that, because this is like a trend that I have noticed in myself, but not really thought about. But I hate silence. And so I always have to be listening to something. Like I'm always listening to music, a book, a video, ASMR, something. And that's probably partly why, like, I don't like, I guess not always, most of the time. Sometimes I need silence. My brain is perfect and it makes perfect sense, and I love her. As a little recap, this has been our November Books with Bella. As always, these Books with Bella streams are an opportunity for us to just literally talk about books for as long as we want. The structured part is that I talk about the books that I read the previous month and the books that I'm hoping to read this upcoming month. But we also, like, I love these streams as an opportunity for everyone to talk about the books that they're excited about, to talk about reading and books as like a general thing, etc. I'm really grateful for like getting to share this space and these conversations with you all, and I'm so like, I get so mushy when y'all participate in the conversations. Not that you ever have to. You're always so welcome to just like hang here and listen to me ramble, but you're totally welcome to hang here and listen to me ramble. But I really love getting to share these conversations with you, so thank you.